Translation has often been described as a bridge between cultures because people get to know about other cultures through works that are translated in their own language. I think that translation is crucial in intercultural communication, but it has to be done in a very responsible way, and it has to take into consideration both the cultures of the source language and also of the culture of the target language, the target readers who are going to read the translation. Many times cultural issues are overlooked and are not given so much importance, and they are either difficult to understand by the reader, or else they are eliminated completely from the translation, and that does not help this enrichment by the reader of reading a text that is coming from another culture. So it is important that we make sure that when we make a translation, the reader has all the information necessary to understand it, even if it is difficult or complicated, but you have to explain by footnotes, by an introduction, by different strategies. Background knowledge is important because the cultures are too different. You have to have some information that explains it to you. And what is necessary can only be told to you by someone who is of the culture of the reader, because only who is in the culture of the reader knows what the reader usually knows about that culture. Well, when I started interesting myself in Chinese culture, it was some 9 years ago, I didn't know much about it. Like many Westerners who are educated but who are not specialized in Chinese culture, you only know superficially the most famous things. When I started interesting myself in Chinese culture, I saw, first of all, how deep it is, but also how different it is. The concepts, for example, philosophical concepts, thinking about the world, seeing the world, they are very deep thoughts, but they are not the ones that we are used to because we have a different history, we developed in a different way. Since I come from translation, my idea was always, how can we disseminate such a rich culture that we don't know much about in general? The scholars know about it, but people with a normal level of education who are not really into Chinese don't know much about. So how can we create these conditions where we can facilitate the understanding of Chinese culture in our own cultures in the West, in my case in Malta, for example. Many Maltese know little about China. They know things they know from television, from newspapers. That's the level of China we know, history books maybe. But how can we go deeper? How can we show the cultural wealth of China? But not only of China, of many other countries in the world, because every country has its own culture and it brings with it creativity, new thoughts, inventions. The Maltese market for books is very, very small because Malta is very small. So we have to start from the basic. So Confucius is the first text that comes to mind. That is why we worked on that. But there are also 2 or 3 other translations from Chinese already existing in Maltese. But that is what brought me to be interested in this form of cultural exchange. So, for example, my role in the translation of Confucius was not to translate the words, but to tell the translator, look, the Maltese reader cannot understand this. You have to find a way how to explain it. When I speak about Western readers, I have in mind European readers, because there is a difference between Europe and the United States. But for European readers, especially continental readers, those who don't have English as their first language, contemporary Chinese literature is very interesting. It is more accessible, obviously. I know from my experience, and also as a reader myself, that many Chinese contemporary novels, for example, are being translated and published in Italy, in Germany, in France, and in many countries. There is a great interest in Chinese authors, contemporary Chinese authors. But that is because they are more accessible, probably, and they speak about things that are easily understood. You know, we all live in the same world today, so you can understand what it means to live in a certain way in a big city. There are these similarities of conditions. As far as the older ones are concerned, it is a bit more of a challenge because you have to be very, very interested already in Chinese culture to try to read them, because there are many things that you have to understand in those texts. There is the philosophy, there is the use of language, there is the style that is very different. So that is something that is a bit more challenging.